Can you imagine being locked out of your office? Can you imagine being locked out of a school? Can you imagine being locked out of a grocery store? It's happening all over the world. It's happening in France. It's happening in places. New York. I was just there. I spoke till very late, and the people with me were trying to find a restaurant that would let us in so we could at least order some takeout food. You don't even think about it. Like living in Texas, I don't even think about the fact that this is going on in people's lives, that you literally cannot get food in certain places in the United States of America without what? A vaccine passport. If you haven't heard of it, then this is what they've been saying in the news all around the world.
China has launched a so-called vaccine passport for travelers.
The European Union has made it easier to travel across borders in the region.
Australians are a step closer to an overseas trip today.
Italy is the latest country in Europe to announce a vaccine certificate system.
New Brunswick and Ontario introduced proof of vaccination passports.
Israelis must now scan in to get in.
Los Angeles set to become home to one of the country's strictest vaccine mandates.
Today I announce a new approach, which we're calling the Key to NYC Pass.
Citizens can now display digital certificates via the social media platform WeChat as proof of their vaccination status.
Travelers can now show a so-called green pass to prove they've been vaccinated against COVID.
The government-issued green pass shows personal details and proves they've had 2 doses of a COVID-19 vaccine.
With the federal government rolling out technology that proves your COVID-19 vaccine status around the world.
Joining 4 other provinces. 3 more plan to follow next month.
In France, anyone entering a venue with more than 50 people inside will need to present this health pass.
Green pass.
Common pass.
The Key to NYC Pass.
COVID passport.
Vaccine passport.
Community certificates.
International travel health certificate.
If you're vaccinated, all that's going to open up to you. You'll have the key. You can open the door.
I can't tell you how many of my friends and family members around the nation and really around the world have said, Del, I seriously thought you were crazy when you said that there would be sort of passports tracking us, whether we were vaccinated or not. I thought you were being extreme, and now clearly it's upon us. You know, unfortunately for a lot of us, we're being caught by surprise. But when we look at it, we've talked about this before. I really wanted to drill deeper, and I ran into a great voice on this. One of the founders of PERC, which is the Protection of the Educational Rights of Kids in California. Amy Bond has been looking at this because they're starting to bring in the passport. LA County talking about it. So I want to bring in Amy Bond right now. Amy, first of all, you're on the front lines. You know, we were talking just the other day. Our planes practically crossed as I was running out of California. You were running in. You're a bit more of like, I guess, a firefighter. You see a fire, you run in. You know, I say, I need to report on it. Let me get out to where I can, get some fresh air and stay away from the smoke. You're in there, though. Tell me about this passport. First of all, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me on the show. Yeah, we moved here from Texas. We moved to California from Texas. While you went to Texas, we came to this side.
Yeah. Well, thank God you're there. I mean, look, it's important that, and frankly, I don't want to make the point everybody should be fleeing. We've all got to stand our ground. We got to fight where we are. This isn't just California. It's not just New York. We had mask mandates in California. In Texas, and so it's going to meet us wherever we're at if we don't nip it in the bud. So that's why I wanted to talk to you. We're right there. We're seeing them plant the seeds of this draconian, terrifying, step that I think at that point we are all now prisoners. We're in a prisoner state the moment we're being tracked and everything we do. But how bad is it? Is this just, am I making a big deal out of it when I think, well, someone just show a picture and we move through into into see a concert or something like that? Where's it coming from?
Yeah, I think we actually need to go back a little bit so people understand the big picture. And I think it'll help everybody see where it's coming from, even a few years ago, and how it has arrived here in California as well as globally. So I want to go back to actually DARPA for just a second. So DARPA is a program under the Department of Defense. And DARPA actually is one of the funders for Moderna. Of course, everybody knows that's one of the lead COVID vaccine manufacturers. But in addition to that, DARPA also funded a company called Profusa. So Profusa, funded by DARPA, is also funded by the NIH and backed by Google. So you've got some pretty big players in here related to Profusa. But what Profusa is it's actually it's biotechnology. It's a wearable biosensor that's injectable, and it goes underneath your skin. And this particular biosensor it's like, the size of a piece of grain, rice or something like that. It's made out of some type of hydrogel, and the biosensor can read your temperature, a lot of your biometrics. This is biotechnology. And what's crazy about Profusa is that it's also able to connect to your smartphone. So it has the ability to basically send signals through some type of fluorescent light that sends signals to your smartphone and can send data, health data, to your smartphone. So you've got Profusa, this injectable, biosensor. And then in addition to that, you have a patent that Microsoft took out, a patent that actually is for cryptocurrency. So this is what's interesting. You've got a cryptocurrency system that can use body activity data, and this is also connected to wearables. And it actually mentions wearable devices in this particular patent. So you've got Profusa with the injectable biosensor, then you've got this patent. And then in addition to that, you have a whole working group that started through the WHO several months ago. So, really back in January, I would say we saw the first indication of this larger working group. And what they called it was the Vaccination Certificate Initiative. And this initiative included some of the heavy hitters like Microsoft, Oracle, and another group called the Commons Project. And the whole point of this working group was, their intent is to create a whole vaccination verification system. And in that, having Microsoft there with these patents and one of their partners, we started to see what's called the Smart Health Card. So the Smart Health Card is essentially a smart health app. And this is what's crazy. And this is how, if people understand this goes so far beyond just one state or even one country. The Vaccination Certificate Initiative with the Smart Health Card, this is an app that you can have a QR code with. You have a QR code, and then it also is brought to you by what's called the Commons Project. So think about this for just a second. The Commons Project all started in 2019. So prior to
even before we
Yes.
were dealing with the COVID pandemic.
Right,
Wow.
exactly. So in 2019, you have the Commons Project that's set up. And the Commons Project is brought to you by the World Economic Forum and the Rockefeller Foundation. So it says this straight on their website and their news releases. So in addition to the Commons Project, what they put forward is what's called the Commons Pass. So the Commons Pass, this is essentially their
Well, hold on a
platform.
second. I understand we have an
Yeah.
advertisement by them for the Commons Pass, so let's take a look at that.
Okay.
For the COVID-19 era, we need a safer and more secure way for all of us to travel and cross borders. Common Pass, an initiative of the Commons Project Foundation, aims to get the world moving again in a safer way by allowing you to securely document and share your COVID-19 vaccination and test status while keeping your health information private. You can use the Common Pass app directly or other approved third-party apps that are part of the Common Trust network. With Common Pass, you can learn the latest entry requirements of your destination, as well as certified Common Trust network providers, where you can get required COVID-19 tests or vaccinations. Common Pass allows for additional screening requirements, such as multiple tests or vaccination records. Once you complete your destination's entry requirements, Common Pass generates a secure QR code for you to show at check-in, boarding, and/or passport control for land, sea, and air travel. Common Pass and the Common Trust Network are non-profit initiatives that facilitate safer travel by enabling you to control and share your verified COVID-19 status in a privacy-preserving manner with governments, airlines, trains, ships, hotels, and others.
It's amazing when I see things like that. They actually make that video, and there must be people out there that are psyched to see that. And to those people out there, I just think, I think in their minds, they just think, well, I got this vaccine, everyone should have to prove this vaccine. This isn't going to just be one vaccine. This will be literally every vaccine they want to force you to get. And we're going to live in a world where the pharmaceutical industry will make 20 new vaccines next year. They will lobby the politicians, say this needs to be put on the schedule, and put it on the Commons Pass. And now you're lined up. You can't do a grocery store again. Even though you had the COVID, now you need whatever, other things that they're vaccinating for. Is this the world we want to live in, especially when we now have the drug company that the government's going to say they don't need to do any safety studies. We're just going to emergency use this stuff right into you. I mean, it's so freaking terrifying. But in the end, it's not really just about vaccines only, is it? This thing gets deeper.
No, it's not. And that's the thing that I want people to understand, that it's even bigger than I think the vaccine passport. So when you have the Commons Pass, remember the Commons Project brought to you by these big, World Economic Forum, Rockefeller Foundation, and Microsoft.
Founders of the Great Reset, which we keep hearing about the Great Reset, and Build Back Better. That's not a Biden slogan. That is an international slogan of those that are, psyched to tear down the infrastructure and establishments of the countries that we live in, only to build a new smart world where we're being tracked everywhere we go.
Right, exactly. And so the Smart Health Card, this is the operating system that they're using for the Common Pass. So they have not opened it up to anyone else. Okay. It's just featuring the Smart Health Card through Microsoft. I mean, they're even having a big conference at the end of this month about the Smart Health Card, like a national international conference, actually. Okay. But the thing about the Smart Health Card and even the Commons Pass, I mean, it's already, they're creating an infrastructure that it's already in at least 52 countries. I mean, that's that's global already. I mean, we're talking about across the whole country, across the whole world, on every continent, that they're trying to reach people with the Commons Pass and this whole infrastructure. But the other thing about this whole situation, I did a lot of research and watched their own presentations, which are so boring, to be honest with you. Watching their presentations.
Thank you for your sacrifice.
That's right. That's right. But in their own words, they actually mentioned something which I think is really significant, which is that the whole point was not about proving immunity. It was about proving that the actual vaccination event happened. So, it's not even about proof of immunity.
Wow, look at this, number 4. So this is from the World Health Organization, documenting vaccination event. Proof that a vaccination event has happened is what we want, not proof of immunity, which is not feasible to determine. We don't care. We just want to know that you're compliant, and that is what this is all about, right?
Right, exactly. Their immunity doesn't matter. It's just about the event happening. And that tells you that this is so much bigger than even about the vaccine itself. Yeah. And so the other thing along with it too, in California where we live, this is actually what tipped me off to it. I was, trying to understand the vaccine passport many, many months ago, and I saw the Smart Health Card and the symbol, that's this little rainbow symbol coming from Microsoft, and this through the California Department of Public Health. This is how they're implementing the vaccine verification system, where you go online, you upload your COVID shot information, and it connects you with the Smart Health Card, the Smart Health app, what I was just talking about. That's at a global level, and that's in California. And then it's also in places like Hawaii and New York, and that's something I just realized this past week. But this whole system, the Smart Health Card, it's connected also, it's powered by Microsoft Azure. So when you go onto Microsoft Azure, here's another interesting thing about the timing of it. Microsoft Azure was established in 2019 as well. So prior to the lockdown, prior to everything what we're seeing, and you can see the symbols of the Smart Health Card. And Azure is basically part of the Internet of Things. So it's a whole nother infrastructure, in my opinion, where the Smart Health Card is one part of the whole. But what it says on Azure is that you can use the Smart Health Card, this app, and it actually can sense whether people are wearing a mask or not in the workforce. It can also sense body temperature and abnormal body temperatures. So it has some type of AI technology that is,
that works
I mean,
in my existing iPhone. Are we talking about a technology that my iPhone is capable of running this information to check in at my heart rate, my temperature, and whether I'm wearing a mask or not?
I think so. I think that the whole point
Wow.
is that you have to probably download the software through the Microsoft, the health card, the
The
smart
line
health
starts
card.
behind me. Oh, man, crazy.
Well, let's not line up for this one. But
Right.
what's crazy too, like you've got this sensor that's coming from this app, right? And when when you look at even other countries such as Africa, the whole continent, they're actually talking about using Azure as their platform to monitor genomic software as well. So it's connected somehow to DNA and genomic platforms too. So that tells you this is, yes, this is the vaccine passport, right? This is what they're using globally. They're calling it lots of different names, whether it's a green pass, vaccination certificates. I've seen it called a travel pass. That's another name
Yeah.
for it. But, at the heart of what we've been talking about for months, it's definitely a vaccine passport at a bare minimum, but it's
Yeah.
so much more. Like, how is it sensing our body temperatures? And that doesn't make any sense unless there's so much more happening with these apps and software. So,
Amazing. Yeah.
yeah, you connect it to the Profusa, like I was talking about in the beginning. You've got this biosensor in your body that can be connected to a smartphone, the
Right.
data, and then you have the smart health card and app that, right, basically
Which is all
regulates your vaccine.
connected through, Bill Gates is, celebrating this connection to cryptocurrency. And I think in many ways, we always think of cryptocurrency just as, well, it's money. What does money have to do with it? But that's also blockchain, right? I mean, if you attach things and start moving it across the internet where I can't touch it, if my information gets out there, I can't even take it down. I can't even ask a central server to be dealt with because it's just everywhere. It's broken up in little pieces across servers all around the world. And to think that all that technology is coming in and our government is funding these things, is funding injectables and wearables and tracking devices, and now test marketing in California and New York. And when you look at the world, it's clear that America's what was holding up this whole thing, right? Our Constitution and our belief in freedom is really the thorn in the side of these globalists, the World Economic Forum, the Great Reset. We're getting in the way of this plan, which was supposed to roll out a hell of a lot smoother, I imagine.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they're pretty shocked that we are on to what they're doing and how they're doing it. And the thing about the the genomic side of this, the DNA, we know that they're doing all this mass testing across the world, right? So
Yeah.
this is something interesting too. And you mentioned blockchain technology, where they've set up these mass genomic platforms through at least two entities that I know of. One is called Color,
Okay.
so COLOR, Color, and the other one is called Fulgent Genetics. And Fulgent Genetics is in a joint venture partner with a Chinese company called FF Gene Biotech. And the thing that's interesting about these particular mass genomic population surveillancing platforms is that on the front face, you don't see the blockchain technology or how it's connected. What happens is that we've got lawyers who actually have the contracts of Fulgent and between Fulgent and California, for example. And
Yeah.
in those contracts, that's where you see that they're affiliates, they're partners who they're connected with. That's where the blockchain technology comes in through their third parties, through their,
Wow.
their affiliates. So you don't see it at the front, but even on the front face, having a genetic, surveillancing platform that somehow is connected to, Azure and these biosensors, it just has to make us, we've got to think a little bit broader and even deeper beyond just the vaccine passport. Like, this is a whole infrastructure, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's connected to your DNA. the Internet of Things, and they started this
Well, when
in
you say Internet of
2019.
Things, very quickly for people that are just joining, I mean, like, or the highway. I've talked about this before, but this is that smart city, right? There's a couple of little villages here in Austin, Texas, that have tried it, where every single light post has a camera watching you. All of your your oven, your stove, everything's got cameras. Your refrigerator knows what you're eating, knows what is. It'll even tell you you're out of milk today. I mean, it sounds like the Jetsons, but it's quite terrifying when you start realizing, I'm going to be living in a place where I have a sensor that is watching every single thing that I do. Forget about the commercials they're going to pound me with. What is it my government knows? What is it that, and so, I mean, it starts sounding like Minority Report. Next thing I know, I'm being arrested for a thought I had, whether or not I was going to act on it or not.
Right, right. And it's hard, like, I know we're smiling and kind of laughing
Yeah.
but at the same time, it is really quite terrifying if you think about it, and I think what you're talking about with the Internet of Things, it seems to me like there's this real-time data infrastructure being put in place, both through the genetic software and programs, and then the biosensor, all this stuff. It's a whole infrastructure. We've got to do whatever we can to stop it and be aware too, because when people are faced with the mandates from all the research we've done as an entity through PERC, we can see how the mandates go hand in hand with the vaccine passport and these genomic platforms, because people in California that are faced with the mandates, like in LA County and across the state, they're being told that they have to also be mandated to sign into Fulgent Genetics and opt into that with no choice. So
Wow.
those are the kinds of things where we've got to really wake up about, really what's happening, and it's all connected. I really genuinely believe that.
And before we sign anything, whether it's, we've been hearing people say, look, I was about to sign my medical exemption form, and it had this box that basically said, I'm handing over all of my medical information to my employer. And these companies want our DNA, right? Something we're starting to think about with 23andMe. All these people that signed up sent their blood out. What is that nasal swab? Where is that going? These are things that we can't just go, oh, they'd never do that. It is clear they're funding companies. Our government is funding companies to develop ways to do exactly that. I want to thank you, Amy, for enlightening us on many of these details. Now, PERC is doing great work. You have multiple lawsuits that are going on, both protecting, employees, also students in schools. So this is your website, I guess, www.perc-group.com. What is the mission? What is it you hope to achieve by, with PERC and the work that you're doing?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you so much for having me and giving me the opportunity to talk about all these things. I mean, really, the bottom line is this: we are a hedge of protection for the children. We fight the mandates. We started during SB 276. So we understand how laws and policies that come down can actually really hurt the children. And that's the bottom line. The lawsuits we filed one against LA County on behalf of first responders and public employees across the whole county. And we have over 5,000 first responders and public employees and part of that lawsuit. And they are so in line with our mission that they're ready to hold the line and do whatever it takes to protect the children and their families in the next generation. So that's what PERC is about. We're here holding the line. It doesn't matter. We're going to do whatever it takes. And the other thing too is it's about everybody being a part of this. It's even people who are vaccinated. This issue is so much bigger than whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated. It doesn't matter your religious background or your political affiliation or your race or your vaccination status. This is about taking on, I think, one of the greatest things that's happened in our history, and we have to become the greatest generation, even maybe greater than during World War II. This is the time to stand. So PERC is one of those entities, along with you all, doing that.
Fantastic. No, look, we can't do it all. We are overwhelmed. Our legal team is overwhelmed. We're doing everything we can. I'm flying everywhere, as I know you are. Obviously, I know for you, like me, you're a nonprofit. Those are very expensive lawsuits. So if people want to support the work that you do, how do they donate to you and help you make that happen?
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, lawsuits are very expensive.
Yeah,
they're great. We have two going right now, one with the first responders and then another against LAUSD as well. So yeah, we're co-plaintiffs on that with Children's Health Defense California. So yeah, so they can go to the website and under donate, I mean, really, if you just go to the website on pick any button,
Okay.
and it'll route you to our donations. And we could use the help and support. And we're ready to take on the vaccine passport. We're ready to take on everything, honestly. We have a great legal team.
Well,
So-
great. It's great to know you're out there. Obviously, with any news, anything that happens or breaks, definitely keep us, on top of it. And thank you for your work. I mean, every time people, what we say is, man, I wish I could clone myself. And then I meet someone like Amy Bone and I say, there we go. There's a clone. We're getting out there. There's people making a difference. Obviously, you're much more than that, but this is what it means. I think you're absolutely right. We've got to rise up now to be the best of ourselves. This is that time. We are going to be that generation, the greatest generation of all times. I think we've got to start aspiring to that. You're so inspiring. You flew into the fire, decided to make a difference. You're standing your ground. So you are truly a hero, and I want to thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We appreciate all the work you guys are doing too. And thanks for having me on the show today.
All right. We'll talk to you soon, Amy. Take care.
Thanks.
If you like that clip, then be sure to check out our live broadcast of The High Wire every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. You can watch it on iTunes and Twitter. We'll see you there.